Fall streak holes, also known as hole punch clouds, are one of the most eye-catching and unusual cloud formations you may be able to see in the sky. They appear as large circular gaps in blankets of mid-level clouds like cirrocumulus and altocumulus clouds. What makes them so striking is the wispy streak of ice crystals that often falls from the center of the hole. These clouds contain supercooled water droplets, liquid droplets that are below freezing but haven't yet turned to ice. All they need is a trigger, and that's often an airplane passing through the cloud layer. The plane cools the surrounding air even more or introduces particles that act as a nucleus for freezing. Once freezing begins, it sets off a chain reaction. The supercooled droplets rapidly freeze into ice crystals, and the crystals start to grow and get heavier. As they fall, they create the wispy fall streak that gives the phenomenon its name. The falling ice causes nearby droplets to freeze and fall too, which makes the hole expand outward. Eventually, the ice crystals evaporate in warmer air below, leaving no precipitation on the ground. While aircraft are the most common culprit behind these features, they occasionally can form naturally in just the right conditions, and when they do, they can turn an ordinary cloud deck into a one-of-a-kind display that looks almost like nature punched a hole in the sky.